Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Wednesday, May 26th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and also known as the number one Mavericks fan in the land. Look at that old school hat. Luka takes them to a 2-0 series lead over the Clippers. Coach, can you contain your excitement?
I'll tell you what, man, I cannot believe that the Mavs were able to go in there and get two in LA. I mean, I love it. Great play, great shooting. Luka Magic for sure. I mean, a couple of those shots, he hit that one-legged three leaning. I mean, it was like, what is he doing? But man, it was fun to watch. And as a Mavs fan, every time they win, it worked the first time. It's gonna hopefully I'll have a long run of wearing this hat. I still have the Coach Talk shirt, so we're halfway there. But it was fun. That was a fun game to watch, and great victory for the Dallas Mavericks.
Absolutely. Well, we've got the full arsenal from Luka last night, and we're going to bring the full arsenal tonight on this three-game slate, and we're going to build a two brains are better than one GPP lineup on FanDuel. We'll build towards that throughout the show, so make sure to stick with us there. We do have three games, two on the earlier side, Coach. We've got a range of totals, and here we are in the playoffs. No back-to-backs to worry about. It's just right back at it here for game two.
I mean, this is perfect for me. I mean, I love these slates. More than two, I'm good to go. Like you said, everybody's all in. You find your value from within. Hats off to you. And we both were high on Mr. Campaign last night. He was a big difference maker for us. And, it's a lot easier when you can, take a look at something at face value, know who's going to get the minutes and who's going to play. And, it's awesome. So this is a great card. If you're ready, I'll dive right in. We've got a 7 p.m. game. Philly is 1-0 in this series. And so game two, again, in Philadelphia. Philly is -8, and we have the biggest over-under by quite a bit because we have a 212 and a 218 on the board. So 230.5 right off the bat. We're going to be diving in. We got the fastest paced team in the league in Washington, and we have the 12th fastest in Philly. So they're getting up and down. Washington 18th defensively, which is not a strong defense, but certainly better than where they were. And can they crack that, Philadelphia number 2 rated D is going to be a big clue. And then offensive efficiency-wise, 12 and 18 respectively. So, they're both going to get it done pretty much on an average type situation here. But the bottom line is we know that Washington wants to play fast and really get up and down the floor. And that's why Vegas has this high line. So this is going to be a great game. Nobody's listed on the injury report, which is like mind-boggling after some of the things that we went through. But this is great. It's who best team is going to win. It's just that simple. Let me look at Washington here. Sort of take a deep dive there real quickly. We've got, of course, the two buy-up guys from Washington that, you pretty much almost have to grab one of them every slate, it seems like. They're just too explosive, and the ceiling is so incredibly high. And, of course, we're talking about the easiest of all, and that's Russ. He got almost 43 minutes. He was 7 for 17 from the field, missed both of his threes, but as normal, 14 assists, but only 5 rebounds. So he did have 6 turnovers. It wasn't the sharpest game by Russ, but, he's still always on the cusp of an 80-point fantasy game, which you're going to need at his salary. So certainly in play. Bradley Beal, he got 6 more shots up than Russell, which is the way it should be. He was 13 for 23 in 41 minutes. So that is a big plus side. And then he did a little bit of Russ Westbrook himself. He had 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal. So that is certainly a way to go. So I'm really torn in this game between those two guys. It was a little easier when Westbrook in some of the matchups was just much more of an obvious play. But with Ben Simmons' defense and the way both of these guys can score, man, it is a tough decision. So I'm looking forward to see which way you're leaning, Andrew. I am literally 50-50 still on this one. As far as the other Washington players go, we've got that nightmare at center that isn't getting any easier. You had Len with 16 minutes, Robin Lopez with 12, and believe it or not, my man Gafford had 20. So he was the highest minutes of the three, finally, and I'm thinking that may continue. He was 6 for 6 from the field with 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. So, all of the DFS folks that hadn't been on the Gafford bandwagon are going to come running to Gafford. So I don't know, Andrew. I'm with this situation with him becoming sort of almost chalky. It agitates me. I don't know if I even want to go there, but I'd love for you to weigh in on that one. As far as any of the other guys, it's just hard to trust. I mean, we know Hashimura is going to get big minutes, so he's always in play at 36 minutes. He's going to get some rebounds, but he's risky. And then after that, it's really a roll of the dice. I wouldn't go personally with Neto, Smith, Bertans, even though he gets up a ton of threes. To me, it's take one of the big boys in either Beal or Westbrook, follow it up with maybe a Hashimura or a Gafford, and definitely try to have two guys exposure here. Even though it's against Philly's good D, the points are going to go up, and Vegas agrees. So what do you think about Washington, man? Because I am excited about this, exposure in this game, but I'm not positive which guys to go to.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the best game on the slate for likely scoring. So I wouldn't mind exposure on the Washington side. I don't think I'm quite as excited about it as you. I don't think I want to pay up for Westbrook, so it'd probably be Beal or pass on the big guys.
Okay.
He's so much cheaper. I don't know that he'll go 33, 10, and 6 again, but he could pay it off. But I'm probably more likely to get a value play here. And Gafford was impressive. I also would guess he would get the most minutes out of the trio.
Good luck. Yeah. Who knows?
I mean, and I'm not sure he's going to be chalky on FanDuel where he's 5,500. He's 41 on DraftKings.
Yeah, DraftKings is where he'll be chalky.
Yeah, and then on FanDuel we also have the potential value with Taj Gibson at power forward, who's 41 on FanDuel. So I think obviously we'll get to that in game 2, but because of the potential Taj Gibson value, I don't think a Gafford ownership will be too bad on FanDuel, which obviously we're going to build this two brains lineup here later in the show. And at power forward, we've got Tobias Harris on the other side. We've got Randall. So we've got some options. So I think you could go to Gafford. Bertans, you could go for a GPP. He's under 4,000 on both sites. He got 28 minutes.
Yeah.
But
he did grab 5 rebounds out of nowhere, which is a bonus for him.
That's a nice bonus for Bertans. You're not looking for that. So I wouldn't mind maybe a guy or two here, but I think I'm a little more interested on the Philly side.
Okay. That's fair.
Well, let's take a look over there. We've got Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris really stole the show there in game 1. Tobias putting up 37 actual points.
29 shots, Andrew.
Yeah.
How about that?
Man, he came to play. Ben Simmons, 15 rebounds and 15 assists. Not a huge shock. I mean, those are big numbers, but it is the Washington defense. We've attacked their backcourt all season, and with a fast pace, wide open game, I mean, that really plays into Ben Simmons' hands.
Oh, yeah.
I know you were on him in game 1. I like him here in game 2. Joel, didn't have a very good first half. Ended up with 30 points. He is expensive. I think he's in play. Seth Curry, Danny Green would be potential GPP options. Again, they benefit from the fast-paced, bad defense as shooters in that 4K range. Either one can get hot and pay off the salary. And I really am focused on the starters here with the Sixers. I'm not very excited about the bench. It's like that theme we talked about yesterday with the starters getting big minutes, the bench not getting big minutes.
Right.
I mean, Shake with 10 minutes, Maxey with 7. George Hill
Yeah.
got 18, which isn't too shabby. And Thibault 14. So not really looking at the bench, but I probably will have a couple of these starters.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The only thing that worries me a little bit, and I mean, you have to have Philadelphia exposure here because, the bottom line is Washington's pace and defense, really sets it up, to go that route. But what Doc does is he uses his bench. He's able to, through his experience of, getting to the finals, winning a championship, he knows that you got to have fresher legs as the playoffs continue, and he used 10, 11 guys last game. And the thing that hurts is you can't really use Howard, Thibault, Hill, Milton, Korkmaz, and Maxey because all those minutes from 4 minutes to like 15 minutes, 18 minutes max. I mean, it's just you can't afford to take low numbers like that. Obviously, all of those guys have a low floor because they're rotating in and out. But what it does do that concerns me is it peels away that extra 5 minutes or so, 6 minutes or so that you're seeing the Kawhis and the Lukas and the LeBrons and all these guys are getting that extra 5-6 minute push to get the bigger minutes. And it really makes a massive difference where that's not happening with Philly. And that game wasn't a blowout where they could have just played a bunch of guys, but Green with only 31, Joel only 29. I mean, that's not going to get it done at that salary. Curry 32. You had 38 and 37 from Simmons and Harris respectively, which are reasonable. I could live with that, but man, I would feel much better like some of these other games to see Joel play 38 or Harris play 42 or whatever the case may be. So that scares me a little bit because every point counts in DFS right now with, the 3-game slates and 2-game slates. I'm tempted. Right now I have Embiid on my board. I think he steps up even bigger in this game. But here's the thing, though, that I'm a little concerned with. At least Scott Brooks, sometimes I don't know what he's thinking. He realizes that the only guy that has any semblance of chance to defend Embiid is Gafford. I mean, there's no way Lennon and Lopez can stay with him. So that's why Gafford played the most minutes. So if they go back to that, then that does at least curtail a little bit for Embiid. So do I want to make that big spend up? That's going to be my big decision. I don't believe I'm going to chase the Harris game because I think he's going to get so much more attention. And there's no way, in my opinion, he's going to get close to the 30 shots here, 29, 30 shots that he got in this game. So, but I'm with you. I've decided in this series it made the most sense to play Ben Simmons because he's going to be fired up. He wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. He wants to guard Westbrook. He's going to get monster minutes. And even though he can't shoot outside 2.5 feet, he finds the ways to get it done. And I agree. I don't think 15 and 15 was an aberration for him. I think it's going to be sort of almost the norm in this series. So big time for me with Simmons. I'm with you on that one. And then I have to make the decision if I have the courage to go ahead and pay up for Embiid. But I think this game should stay close enough that all the guys get their regular minutes, I would anticipate. But if you want to play a GPP and think Philly's going to smack them, you could play a couple of those bench guys if they're going to get massive mop-up minutes, and it can, make your build a little bit different. But, that's where I'm looking.
All right. Well, speaking of close games, let's go to game 2, which came right down to the wire. Trae Young getting it done in the Garden.
That was fun watching that, wasn't it?
Yep.
With the FU Trae.
That was the playoffs. We are here. That was the wake-up call. This is no longer the regular season. So what do you think about Atlanta here in game 2?
Atlanta's always one of the harder teams for me. I don't know why. It's just And the fact that they're going against that Knicks defense, definitely a little concerning. Trae Young, 11 for 23, game-winning shot. I think what that chanting did was motivated him to another level. So backfire on you, New York Knicks fans. I mean, that was not a good plan. I think I would abandon that here pretty quick. But, you can't pay up for everybody, and I'm probably going to go back to Simmons. So as good as Trae is in this slowdown game, you've got the Knicks -2, and it's only 212.5, far cry from the 230.5 in that last game. Plus, you have the pace of snail's pace, 23rd and 30th, compared to 1 and 12 in the game before. That's not good. And then from a defensive efficiency standpoint, you have the Knicks, who are 4th in the league. Atlanta, 19th. They can be had at times, but Atlanta's definitely more efficient offensively at 8th. Knicks, as good as they are, grinded out defense. They're not efficient offensively. And Randall had an awful game. The fact that they almost won that, considering Randall was off, was very interesting. But the million-dollar question here, Andrew, is we have a questionable tag on Noel, and it is truly a questionable tag. It's not one of those flimsy Lakers kind of questionables. And then I've seen a couple of games in a row here, Mitch Robb has been on the questionable list to possibly come back. But we need to know, because if one of those guys plays, they become playable. If they both happen to sit, then it's going to be like 100% Taj Gibson across the board. And, we just need to see and follow this news very closely throughout the day, because that is going to take one of the key spots on the board, depending on how that shakes out. And so that will be key. Reddish, by the way, is still out for Atlanta. So on the Atlanta side, I never trust Collins, and he only took 9 shots again. DeAndre Hunter now has pretty much done the full split with Herter, so the Herter-Hunter thing is a little bit hard pill to swallow with real split minutes. You can go to your main guys. Capella got good run, played decent. Same with Bogey. He did his stuff. And then the other guys, not really trusting that bench for as far as, rostering DFS guys. Even Gallo, 23 minutes. He's never going to give you many periphery stats. So really what it comes down to for me on the Atlanta side, the only guys I would consider, and I probably won't be able to afford more than one, if any, is Capella, Bogdanovich, and Young. So it could be a full pass for me, or if I can find a way to make possibly a Bogey or one of these guys work, then I would look at that direction. But, you just look at what the Knicks do to teams statistically all season. They slow them down. They defend well. And, so Atlanta's not a big target for me today. How about you?
Well, not a huge target, but I do like Trae Young. One of the big standout situations in game 1 was Derrick Rose getting 38 minutes off the bench. So Tibbs,
only Tibbs, man.
Yeah, he went to his guy. Peyton started and played 8. So it's Derrick Rose time, which means good matchup for Trae. He got to his spots. Derrick Rose really doesn't have that quickness anymore to contain a guy like Trae Young. And I think he's a little underpriced on both sites, 8,500 and 9,000.
It's fair.
So I like Trae Young here. Bogdanovich or Capella, you could go there. They're fairly priced for their upside, but I'll pick Trae here most likely and pass on those other guys because I don't want to load up on Hawks here either. Don't really like Collins' usage right now either. Hunter is interesting to me. 22 minutes. That I don't want 22 minutes from him, but he is really cheap, and I just wonder if he'll start to get more. We know he's been working back from injury. 24 minutes the game before. There's a guy who, if you get 28 to 30, he can do so much with rebounds, steals, blocks, knock down a couple threes.
Talk about peripheral stats. I mean, if you were to tell me he's going to get 30 minutes, he's the first guy in my lineup. I'm nervous about that though.
Yeah, I'm not ready to project 30 minutes, but it wouldn't shock me if he got better minutes tonight, 26 to 28.
Sounds like a real good candidate for the two brains lineup though.
Could be. We'll
Yeah.
see how it plays out. I'm also not really fired up about the bench, but Kevin Huerter, he's the flip side. If getting 27 minutes at his mid 4K range, he can pay that off when he's leading that second unit. But we do have Lou Williams there, so not feeling great about that either. So really, it is primarily Trae Young for me, and then we turn to New York.
All right.
You
got it.
On the Spike Lee side of things, we know he'll be out there cheering these guys on, jumping up and down, and they need to get this one done here to even it up. And
they need this game bad. You know, go 2-0 down at home, you're in deep trouble. 93.4% of the time, teams win it.
That's right.
You know why I know that, right?
You know that stat is at stake for sure. So yep. Randall's got to step up here and play better. I mean, 6 for 23, that's not going to get it done. You figure he's going to be more efficient than that, but does he pay off that high price tag? It won't be easy in this slower pace game. RJ Barrett got big minutes. He's potentially playable, little on the high side with price. I probably will have a significant amount of exposure if we get multiple bigs out, though, for New York. I'll look at Taj Gibson for sure as a starter. Burks and Rose. Those are really the only other guys I'm considering here. No way I'm going to play Peyton. Quickly got 21 minutes, but the real go-to guys here are Rose and Burks. Burks 27 points in 26 minutes.
Oh, he was hitting tough shots too.
Yeah, shooting with confidence. So we know he's going to finish the game. Yeah. And on a 3-game slate to have a guy like that at that price range, I think is a wise move. So he's probably my favorite Nick, other than the potential value of Taj Gibson. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I've always thought Alec Burks was terrific, and he plays such an important role there and definitely will finish the game. I still, though, I get so agitated with the shared, stuff, and you're still going to have that. Elf's going to get some run, and, D Rose will get a ton, and Burks and Quickly, and it is a little concerning because I think Tibbs certainly goes with the veterans and the guys he trusts, but he also has a tendency, like he should, to go with a hot hand. So, if somebody's lighting it up, you could take a guy that got 23 minutes and all of a sudden he gets 15 and you're in bad shape. So I don't feel super comfortable. D Rose makes sense, but is he going to be 100% feeling great after logging probably the most minutes he's logged in a game in a long time? Yep. Almost 38 minutes. He probably hasn't done that in 3-4 years. So I just don't know if he's going to be fresh enough. He's going to be very popular. I have a tendency to lean towards Burks as well. I know he's going to get some extra attention, from DFS players after his good performance, but I'm interested there. And I think, Julius Randle's been so solid all year. I'll give him a mulligan on that last game. And if he's going to continue to draw fouls and get up mid-20 shots, I still think he's extremely playable. So, it's really going to come down to deciding between, some of the big names. If I go with Embiid, I won't be able to go with Randle, and then vice versa. So, but Randle's still high on my board. I think you'll have some guys that got burned with him the last game, like me, that are like, screw that, I'm not going that direction. But, he's not going 6 for 23, and he's going to get double digits rebounds. And he's a group, people forget what he's done this year. His assist ratio, he was in the top 15 in the league in assists. So you tell me that's not a heck of an accomplishment. So Randle's definitely on my board. It's going to be the Embiid Randle duel for me, deciding which one to play. And Burks, I think, is my second go-to guy. And of course, if Mitch Robb and Noel are out, you have to have rocks in your head if you don't play Taj Gibson, because you just got to take what you can get at this point. It's a free square.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
Yep.
before we transition to game 3, just a reminder here, stick with us to the end of the show. We're going to build that 2 brains are better than 1 lineup on GPP on FanDuel, and then jump in with us as a member tonight. You'll get our 2 cash lineups on FanDuel, full lineups, and then the full Yahoo lineup, the core on DraftKings for GPP and for cash. DFSCoachTalk.com. Sign up there, 3-day pass, or get the full playoff membership, which is a great reduction on the monthly price. It's a 2-month membership, and you get access to all of our sports: basketball, baseball, golf right now, football, of course, around the corner. So that's the information there. Any questions, reach out to us on Twitter, DFS Coach Talk. We will invite you into our Discord with an email to get you the lineups tonight and every night moving forward. And then on YouTube, if you could, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We would greatly appreciate that. Thumbs up wherever you're listening, watching. We'll really appreciate all that support. Coach, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, too, thank you for the awesome comments and all the thumbs up yesterday. It was great to see people are really, profiting and getting something out of this show. I mean, we come into it very raw. We look at it on, of course, statistically, but we try to game script and discuss it through. And a lot of people have been, listening and really appreciating that. And so, just wanted to say a quick thanks there. And remember, too, when you sign up with Coach Talk, like we had a new member that came in a day before yesterday, and they thought they were just getting the NBA package, which when you sign up with Coach Talk with anything, regardless of what package, you get everything that we offer, all of our lineups, all of our sports, which are basketball, football, baseball, and golf. So that person yesterday, we had a hot day in all different sports. So they hit the after hours NBA. They hit both baseball slates, and now they're pumped up to line up some golf lineups, which we have a golf podcast later today, and we'll get that ready for the Byron Nelson, which is down the road for me. So Mavericks, Byron Nelson, 15 baseball games a night. I mean, I think this must be heaven, because I can't get much happier than this. It's awesome stuff. So appreciate it. Appreciate the comments. And again, we do try to differentiate ourselves from everybody else by the way we look at the games and break them down. And we hand build all lineups here. And we also follow a DFS Coach Talk process that we'll share with you as people become members, where it really gives you a game plan. It's a blueprint of how can I make money in DFS long term and not have to reload. And we've really fine-tuned it over the last 6.5 years. And we'd love to share that with you, coach you through it. I mean, that's what we're all about here. And it's no better time of the year to join us than right now. So DFSCoachTalk.com. We would absolutely love to have you. And then the last thing is really appreciate the fact on YouTube, take 10 seconds, thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, click the alert up in the corner. That really, really helps us. We bring these to you in front of the paywall 7 days a week. We really want to climb the ladder and the algorithms on YouTube, and then all of the podcast locations. We're on audio podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And we also do a drawing once a month for a free week membership for anybody that gives us 5 stars and puts a little comment in. Can be 1 line, 2, 3 words, whatever. But that also, again, really helps us to grow our listenership. And that's the one thing we really appreciate. So if you can do that, 34%, we're up from 31% of our regular listeners to this podcast every day are subscribed. So that means 2/3 of you are still not clicking that little subscribe button. And that's something we really appreciate. And that alert button also, if there's a variance in time with any of our podcasts, that gives you the opportunity to not miss it. And once it's loaded up there, you can re-listen to it, start it over, whatever you have to do, to get that information. So very much appreciative. All right, last game. It's a late night sweat game. We've got a 7 and a 7:30. They'll be long over, and this late 10 o'clock Memphis Utah game will go on. Utah is 1-0 in this, and we know Memphis pushed that game down to the wire. Big news here, though, Andrew. Donovan.
Yeah, you mean Memphis got that one done?
Oh, yes, that's what I meant. Memphis, exactly. Big question here, though. What kind of impact is Donovan Mitchell going to have?
That is a big question.
Yes. As you know, I know obviously they have Utah's attention. Before I go through all of it, I wanted to get to see if you had gotten any skinny on Mitchell. Do you think this is one of those scenarios, spot work, he's going to dive back in head first? What's your gut on this? Because that makes a big difference in this game.
It does. I mean, he changes the game with how many shots he takes. And I haven't heard specifically. I was wondering, do they just put him right back in the lineup? Do they bring him off the bench? I think they would probably start him. He would seem so close to playing in game one. They thought he was going to play, go through warmups. He doesn't get the start. So I would think he would start. I would think he'd be ready to give 28 to 30 minutes. But man, what a game changer with the usage for Conley, who took 18 shots and 11 threes. I don't think that's going to happen again with Mitchell out there. Ingles didn't take many shots to begin with. Clarkson is expensive, and he got 16 shots. Does he get that much again? I think he might. He's more likely, I think, to stay in that same range than Conley. Bogdanovich scored really well with 16 shots. What happens to him? I mean, I'm worried about Utah with the guys we usually look at, those five guys I just mentioned, because we know that Memphis's defense is terrific. So with all those shots with Mitchell, I'm not too excited about that group on Utah.
Yeah, I think the whole industry is going to be like that. Is like, what's going to happen here? Who can we trust, and what kind of an impact? So, I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing is scouring every single Memphis Grizzlies piece of information, contact as far as beat writers and everything that I can find for Memphis and for Utah, because we need to know sort of what the plan is. Now, Quinn Snyder's a great coach, and he may just sit on that info. We may not know, because he doesn't want them to game plan for him. But I would love, it would be nice to know if, what those minutes were going to be, because I'm with you. Do you trust Bogey or Ingles or Conley or Clarkson if Mitchell's going to just jump back in and take 23 shots, So I think you're going to find a lot of that. What happens is there's so many good plays in these early two games. You're going to probably see Utah very underowned because nobody knows exactly what to expect. But this is one thing I want to run by you, because this is what I was thinking. What about rostering Mitchell, sitting on that spot, leaving him in a position where you could rotate him out, and then see if any news breaks during the evening. And if it looks like he's not going to get full run or whatever, pivoting, there's plenty of guys to pivot to on the Grizzlies as well. I just think a lot of people, if it is announced he's starting and going to get pretty much full run, that it's going to be too late for people to put him in their lineup. So I thought that might be an edge. Do you think that's risky, or does that make sense?
I think it's possible. I think in this scenario, I would advise people to only do that if you have a specific pivot mapped out. Because, on DraftKings, it's usually easier. So first of all, if you're gonna put him in the lineup, obviously put him in the guard spot or the utility spot. Don't put him in shooting guard. So you give yourself full flexibility in that late game to be able to make, whether it's one pivot to a different guard or a 2v2 pivot using the guard spot, utility spot. So on DraftKings, you got to always use that approach. On FanDuel, man, obviously we track it every day. There are minor changes in positionality that make a huge difference. So you have to be on top of that every day. Perfect example here. Jordan Clarkson is a point guard on FanDuel today. He has been a shooting guard
Right.
primarily for most of the season on
Yeah.
FanDuel. So you can't be planning to pivot just from Mitchell to Clarkson on FanDuel. Obviously, you can do that on DraftKings. But if you're going to do it on FanDuel, you have to map out the exact pivot of what you're going to do. And just instinctually, I think it's a little tricky. The only thing you could do is if you have Mitchell in there as your shooting guard on FanDuel, that you can pivot to Dylan Brooks because he's 800 cheaper and he's a
Right.
shooting guard. But other than that, I would advise people only if you have the full pivot mapped out.
Yeah. And it is site specific, as you said, so that's great advice. I mean, it's a piece of cake to do it both on DraftKings and Yahoo because you can put them in that swing position and you have a million options. But you're absolutely right. As far as FanDuel, you can't really just go into this unless it's certain circumstances where you're just going to do, all right, let's say he ends up with an 18 to 20 minute limit or something. You're going to pull him out. You're not going to have anybody to put in there. So like you said, the key factor, especially on FanDuel, and we have a lot of our listeners and members that play FanDuel the most, you have to have at least a 2v2 planned. Sometimes it has to be a 3v3, which is a little rough, but if you can have a 2v2 where you're getting an upgrade, if you decrease on your shooting guard from Mitchell down to Brooks, for example, can you go up at a different position, small forward, power forward, whatever? Or, is it you go from a lesser center to Joe Val, whatever the case may be. But like Andrew said, you have to have that planned out because there's nothing worse than being stuck in that late game when it's just one game and all of a sudden you have to decrease to a guy that's much less of a player and you can't reap the benefits of going up anywhere else. So that would be my theory there. But knowing Donovan Mitchell and how explosive he is and how good he is, I'm not afraid to play him if he's going to get big minutes. I think, he's that good. And he did. I watched with you and, warm-ups and everything else. He looked great in that first game. I thought he'd play. So I don't think he's really hurt that bad anymore at all. I think he's playing close to 100%. So I'm really excited. I think that piece of strategy becomes extremely important to what you do. But as far as Memphis goes, a couple other things. The question is Dylan Brooks, man. I mean, people are really bought into him now. 26 shots the last game, 2 for 5 from 3. He always gets the ancillary stuff: rebounds, steals, blocks, 2 and 2 of those. I mean, he's just such a great player to roster. But you got to watch his ownership because we may have to play the leverage game here, Andrew. I think he may become at his price over-owned to the point where it's worth pivoting from him. So I'm going to watch that closely. I've been able to take him several times now and get pretty low ownership, but I know that's going to drastically change without question. The guy that I like Ja, man. You give Ja 35 to 40 minutes a game, and it's hard not to roster him. And Jenkins is so cautious with his players, and he rotates people. And I think he's actually, muscling up here, though. And you had those big minutes, 39 for Joe Val, 36 for Dylan, and 36 for Ja. That's what you need to get these games done. And they needed it to squeal out that first game. So the line here is 8.5, but it doesn't feel like the 8.5 of the Brooklyn line yesterday. And I know it's easy to say this after, but if you listen back to the podcast, we both were concerned. Is Brooklyn going to just blow the doors in from Boston? And that was a big issue there. And I felt it was a 50-50 proposition. I don't feel that way with this game. I think the 8.5 is a respectable one. I can see it, Utah winning maybe by 6 or 8 or whatever, but I think it stays close enough. Memphis is playing so well, and they're on a high right now, that I think you're going to get full minutes from all these guys. So, you can roll up a guy or two from the Memphis side, and you can do the same thing on the Utah side once we get a little bit more clarification of what the minutes disbursement's going to be. But one thing that's tough is you always want to look at Gobert. Gobert gets a ton of attention, and he gets a lot of ownership. He's expensive. Here he goes again. Now I know he fouled out. I get that, but he only took 4 shots. So, I mean, if you're spending up for guys in this playoff run where you have a small roster, and Gobert does that at times, single-digit shots, and, it all comes down then to rebounding for him. But it's a little riskier. I'm not going to go there. I wouldn't mind having a one-off from Utah, but until I get real comfortable with the Mitchell news, I may actually have a guy or two from the Memphis side, even though I do think Utah could bounce back and win this game.
Yeah, I think Ja and Brooks are both playable with the big minutes and reasonable prices. I agree that Brooks' ownership will probably go up, although his price has gone up too. I mean, remember, we rostered him back in the low 5K range.
I know it.
Not anymore, though. So you could look at one of those guys. The thing that stood out to me with Brooks is I didn't get to watch the entire game, but I did look back through the highlights. I saw him take 6 shots against 6 different defenders. So
wow.
they tried everything against him. I mean, I saw Conley, Bogdanovich, Royce O'Neal at the beginning of the game, Niang, even Clarkson. I mean, nobody could stop him. He is just an animal right now. And does he get 26 shots? I'm not sure. But, he's definitely on my radar again. With the rest of Memphis, Triple J, disappointing, man. He's just showing his, inexperience
Youth.
and immaturity. 24 minutes, 7 points, just so blah.
He's a foul waiting to happen, too.
Compared to the veteran presence of Kyle Anderson with, really solid 14, 4, and 3 with 6 steals. For now, I would pick Anderson over Triple J in this series. Not thrilled about that Memphis bench. How about Justice Winslow? Man, what does he have to do to see the floor? He gets an opportunity at the end of the regular season, puts up, 40, 45 fantasy points, and now he can't even get out there. They just went small. Tyus,
he's just not in the rotation.
Allen, Bain, Melton, all these guys getting at least 12, 14 minutes. He gets nothing.
Yeah.
On the Utah side, I'll just circle back and reiterate that I'm hesitant on those core guys. Bogdanovich is the cheap option here. Been really strong here at the end of the season without Mitchell. But what happens with Mitchell back?
Yeah, less shots for sure.
And he can be very scoring dependent. That's a tough road there. So in the end, I may not have much exposure to Utah here because of Mitchell.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the trend. I really do. I think you're going to see a lot of that. All right, man. We got to build this sucker.
Let's do it. Let's make the winner here.
I already have my guy.
Who's that?
Bullet Ben Simmons.
Okay.
To start off the team.
All right. Well, I'll just take the next spot. We'll just go down the list. I'll take Trae Young, 9,000. I just don't, with Derrick Rose out there with all those minutes, I just don't think they have the answer for him.
Super Trae. Okay. I'm going to give us some leverage on salary so we can buy up. And I'm going to take the 25 to 28 minute DeAndre Hunter.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
$4,200. We got to bite the bullet somewhere.
Okay.
And I don't think that's a bad bullet to bite,
This is a GPP. And
that's right.
That's where I feel he makes some sense here.
Exactly. I would not use him in cash. GPP, high upside, of course, a little more dangerous floor, but me, I'm a big Hunter guy. I think he's so good.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't do much in that last game, and you've got Danny Green in that same price range who I think is worth considering.
Yeah.
But it's a GPP, so we'll go with Hunter here.
Yeah, he's got a playoff game under his belt now, and he'd probably get decent enough minutes. So we'll see. 4,200 is a pretty good steal at this point.
Yeah. All right, let me go with another value option here. Alec Burks at 5,500, shooting guard.
Yeah, that was a guy that I was looking to plug in there as well. All right, I'm gonna let you pick our center. I'm split still on multiple guys here. Here's what I'm gonna do now. Joe Stanton will be updating this for all of you listeners that aren't members. I think we have to do it and then make the change if we need to. Taj Gibson for 4,100 at power forward. If he starts, which is very possible. I mean, to me, it's a free square, 30 minutes, all those rebounds, and it allows us to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, if we see that all of a sudden Noel and Mitch Robb are in or something like that, then we'll make a change. Joe will get that up on Twitter, and we'll make sure to get that to our members in Discord.
All right, well, let's pay up for Embiid then with all the value here in our last three picks.
Yeah.
A little foul trouble, didn't get huge minutes, but if we fade potentially, if we fade Tobias Harris, I mean, we still have a power forward spot for you to pick, but if Harris doesn't do quite as well offensively and it's more of an Embiid game and Washington keeps it close, then these value spots could pay off with us allowing us to pay up for Embiid.
I agree 100%. I think that I was really hoping that's the guy you picked there with my bargain basement thrift shopping NBA plays.
Yeah.
How about if we, there's a couple different directions we can go here. We're at 6,333 per man for these three spots, so we've done well. We're not scraping the bottom of the barrel like we usually are. That's just a little risky. I think I want to go with the double barrel here. 7,400 is too cheap for Tobias Harris. I think he and Embiid, I know what you just said, but he's 2,400 less than Julius. And I like Julius a lot. But if we go that route, I mean, I could go either way. What would you prefer to do, Julius or Tobias?
I don't know if we can afford Julius at this point.
Well, if we put Julius in, that gives us 4,600 a guy, which is a little rough in these days when you can't, whereas 5,800 is much more doable. All right, let's go with although that gives us Simmons, Harris, and Embiid.
Yeah,
is that too much of a stack? I think it probably is.
Probably is for a GPP.
All right, let's just for the fun of it, if we put Randall in there, because man, to have Randall and Embiid would be amazing. Can we do it? Is the question. Is there anybody down in that neighborhood at 46 in those two spots that you'd be comfortable enough with? There's your Danny Green pick.
Yeah, but then we have four.
We're back to Philly.
Oh, no, because we went Randall. So if we go with Danny Green,
that would leave us 5,100 at shooting guard. Seth Curry. They want us to take 10 Sixers today. We can't afford Jingles. I don't really want him. Now, this isn't working out very well. So, Grayson Allen? No.
We'd have to go with Herter if we did that.
I don't think. Should we pull back the Randall pick?
We might need to.
We're in a little bit of a quandary here.
What if we took your man Gafford? This is your chance.
Oh, God. The stress I get under. I'll start swearing and stuff in chat.
Or you could go ultra cheap in Bertans. 3,800.
I can't stand him either. Gafford should get 25 minutes. I'm at a loss here, man. You make the call on the next one. I'm off stride
All
here.
right. Well, we looked at what would happen if we went up. So let's look at what happens if we go to Bertans, because that would be very GPP-ish to not go Gafford, to go Bertans. And then if we paid up for, let's say, Dylan Brooks, what does that leave us? That leaves us 8,000 at small forward.
Is there anybody in that range?
We could
Yeah, our man Bogey.
we go 1, 2, 3. Trae Young, Bogdanovich, and Hunter.
So we basically have Philadelphia and Atlanta stacks, but that's okay.
I mean that is very GPP to stack 3 Atlanta guys against New York.
Let's stick with it because it leaves us $400. We don't know the news on Taj Gibson yet, whether he's going to be the big minutes guy or not. So let's stick with that for now. But it's TBD, as you know, as what they say.
Yes, that's
Simmons, Young, Burks, Brooks, Hunter. Bogdanovich of the Atlanta style, Gibson, Bertans, and Embiid. So that's what we have. 400 on the table. Stay in touch for that for any changes. But yeah, I mean, I think we have some potential. We may tweak it a bit, but certainly, definitely some upside there.
excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Again, subscribe to the channel on YouTube and get that show here every day moving forward in the NBA playoffs, and appreciate all your support elsewhere. So on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.